So we've heard so much about levelling up over the last year or so, haven't we? Not just from those who propose it, but also from those who protest that they don't really know what it means. And historically, there's been a lot written and a lot said about the inequalities between North and South. But at this very moment that we're at now, post-pandemic, what are the challenges and the opportunities as well to getting this country well and truly levelled? So, first of all, where are we at? I want to address head-on that notion that the North routinely gets less spent on it than the South. Is that true? So take a look at this. Firstly, I want you to pay attention only to how high up the blobs are on this graph first. What we've charted along this axis here is the total spend per head in each region of the country by the government in 2020. So total, look, London up there at the top is the most. But look, the Northeast and the Northwest actually come in second and third. However, total spend doesn't really give us the whole picture because total spend includes things like NHS salaries and benefits and money that sort of is there and then it's gone. So what we've plotted along the axis at the bottom is total investment spend for each region of the country. Investment spend going into infrastructure and things like that. And as you can see, a slightly different story. Again, London out there at the far end. Southeast coming second. And although the Northwest not so bad, the Northeast, Yorkshire and the Humber much further over towards here. So a very different story. Now, crucially, this is just a moment in time. This is just 2020. And of course, what happens over time, incredibly important as well. So what we've charted here is the growth in investment spend since 2016. 2016, of course, you remember just shortly after we very first heard about the Northern Powerhouse. Actually, you can see up in the top there, the green line, it's the West Midlands that has had its spend grow the most in terms of investment. That's likely a lot to do with HS2. But the South East coming in second there. And crucially, I just want to draw your attention to the yellow line at the bottom, Yorkshire and the Humber, where we currently are. Really one of the only regions in the country where spend really declined over that period, peaking just about to what it was in 2016, very, very recently there. Now, look, in terms of regional recovery and regional prosperity, it's not just what the government is doing that matters, but it's also what we as consumers are doing and how we're behaving. So what we've charted here is footfall recovery in cities around the country since the pandemic compared to pre-pandemic levels. For obvious reasons, we haven't been able to put every single one on there because it'd be a lot, but I've just picked out a few that I think tell interesting stories. Firstly, the two at the top, Blackpool, Southend. It's worth saying there are only four cities and towns in the whole country where footfall is now recovered to what it was before the pandemic, or indeed exceeding it. They're all seaside and touristy towns. Down at the bottom there, London, Sheffield, that big story of city centres just really struggling to recover in terms of their footfall. And then in the orange, Barnsley, we've put that on there because there's a really interesting story around some of these sort of smaller regional residential towns. Actually, some that historically have been a little more deprived. Some of the footfall and the spend has recovered much, much better there than in other places. That's partly because of it's more residential, people live there, and also because a lot of the businesses in those places are more likely to be essential, so people need to get back there for their essential spend. It matters as well what business is doing, of course, the number of companies, the number of jobs, the amount of employment. What we've shown you here is the growth in the number of companies in each region of the country since 2010, so since that financial crisis. And look, it's really clear, isn't it? London, the Southeast, the Southwest, it is still those regions that have by far the biggest growth in the number of companies. And we know that there's well-documented problems with qualified people sometimes choosing to leave to travel south, particularly to the capital for work. And very finally, I want to leave you with this. This is incidentally my favourite chart of the day, and I think it gives a slightly quirky look into some of the problems we face. This shows the inequality of broadband connectivity in different countries across the world. So the red blobs, the least connected region in each country, the green blobs, the most connected region in each country. Essentially what this is showing us is that we have a greater inequality of connectivity in this country than Colombia has. Certainly a greater inequality of connectivity than Denmark has. And look, our worst connected region, the Northeast there, is by far worse off than the vast majority of all these other countries, the US, France, Spain. Worth saying the same picture plays out when you look at Germany, Italy, Portugal. So I hope this gives a bit of a sense of just how much there is to do and just how multifaceted the problems are if we really want to get this country well and truly levelled up.